Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Hey, I hope you are killing it at the game of life. Every week I bring on someone new that I think can add something to your business and life. Now, it's a strange market out there right now, and the people who are winning are the ones who are creating the most perceived value to the market. Now, here's a fact. Most realtors look and sound the same. And because most realtors look and sound the same, consumers see them as a commodity, right? It's just a fact. You go into some PTA meeting and there's like 5 different realtors there, right? So what makes you different from them? They're all the same, right? What's the difference between shell gas and arco gas? Isn't gas just gas? Or is there something about that shell gas? Oh yeah, it's shell with Techron, right? I don't buy arco gas. I pay a little bit more for the Vpower Techron gas. Now, at the end of the day, maybe gas is just gas. I don't know. I don't know if Techron is even real, but that hook has me on the hook for Shell brand for years. All right. So the question is, right? The people who are winning have Techron. Does your business or life or whatever, right? Do you have your own version of Techron? Let me take a step back for a second. Right now, every realtor in America is facing the same issues of inventory. Now, what's really astounding is that right now the country as a whole, from California to New York, as a whole has more buyers than sellers, which is weird, right? In the past, we've experienced the opposite, right? In the Great Depression of the 30s, I think we had like people, I think 35% of people lost their houses, right? And in the Great Recession of 2008, during those two times, we had more sellers, people want to get rid of their asset, than buyers. Now, I don't think we've ever seen a time where we've had more buyers than sellers. It doesn't really matter, right? In a time like this, we really do look like commodities. We really do look like arco gas, right? Or just gas and gas. Right. So in times like this, some of us realtors, right, lose some of our power, some of our glitter, some of that thing that makes us special. Right now, all of a sudden, the seller that doesn't need your fancy marketing, right? Whatever you think you have, right? He knows he can price his house higher than the house next door that just sold. He doesn't need to do any repairs. And that guy or girl, right, might ask for a reduced commission. And seriously, like in today's environment, why does this seller need you? What do you bring to the table? What value do you add to the process? Now, this is something I ask everyone that I hire, and you might not be shocked to hear that most people really haven't thought of it. Right? They've never really asked themselves, well, what value do I bring to the process? Right? What do I bring? They might just think about, well, I won't get into what they think about, but they've never asked themselves what value they add. Now, I wonder what your answer might be. If I asked you that question, if I saw you at we met at Starbucks and you said, yeah, I'm a realtor. I'd say, hey, look, what value might you add? I wonder what you might say. Now, I will tell you, as you think of something, for when that somebody does inevitably ask you that question. And if you have something that's unique, right now, all of a sudden you're going to look like Techron, right? You can't say something generic, right? Like what value do you bring, right? It needs to be something unique to you. It can't be generic because it cannot be some kind of commodity. It needs to be something unique to you. All right. Anyhow, I'm not going to belabor that point. I will tell you, I think this is important, especially in a time like now. Today's guest, we're going to go over that. Our sponsors, let's take a minute. We'll walk through these. My Radio Expert. There is absolutely no better way to tell the world that you are open and ready to take their business. In fact, I'm sold on Techron because of all those old television and radio ads promoting it. That's why I believe it's real, right? That's how long a message can have its resonance. And right now, if you want to grab the low-hanging fruit, all those people that have debated over the last year whether we should sell or not sell, and now they decided they're ready, right? Those are the people you want to meet right now. And there's no better time than right now to try radio. If you want to know more, go to myradioexpert.com, fill out the getting started sheet. eXp Realty. eXp offers all the tools and training you need to succeed. Stop paying for a website, stop paying for a CRM, stop paying for coaching. Join the fastest growing brokerage in America. If you are interested in joining, I'm adding people to my personal eXp team. You can send me an email to superagentslive@gmail.com. Okay, let's get to the show. Today in the show, we have co-founders of BrandFace. We have Tanya Eberhardt, who is the author of 4 books on personal branding, and her co-founder of BrandFace, which is Michael Carr, a top real estate auctioneer and author himself. He has 28 years of experience in the field. Hey, you guys, thanks for taking the time out.
Toby, thank you so much for having us on, man.
Yeah, we enjoyed it last time we were on. We appreciate it.
That's great. So for the people who maybe haven't heard that one, it's always kind of difficult to do 2 people at once. The way that we do this show, but we're gonna do it. Can you guys take a minute, just 30 seconds, just a 30-second overview of what BrandFace does, and then we'll kind of break down, how you guys got into this, and then what you actually do.
And we got into this, Toby, because we realized there are so many people in real estate, and we've created out there what we call the sea of sameness, where pretty much everybody's marketing alike, the business cards start to look alike, the websites start to look alike, the social media posts start to look alike, and that sea of sameness is creating problems. It's creating problems for individual agents because they don't know who to target, how to target them, how to set themselves apart. And that's what we do. We help agents differentiate themselves through a 3D process we call the Freedom Formula. It's define, develop, and display your personal brand.
Okay, perfect. That was tight, man. I think you've done that before a couple times. So when it comes to branding, a sea of sameness, I think anybody in real estate sees that, right? Like everybody's the same. And what happens in this industry is there's a big follow the leader kind of a thing, right? Oh, that guy's doing 100 deals or that guy's doing 300 deals. What do we do? How do we make our business like his? And sometimes that's, okay, that guy has a team. Let's go build a team. Okay, that guy's on radio. Let's go do radio, right? That guy's, oh, geez, they're killing me on Facebook. Let's try to do that. And unfortunately, most real estate agents they don't understand marketing, right? They don't understand exactly what they're trying to do or attempting to do. And they don't, and people kind of know what a brand is, but they don't, right? Like if they think of like the Microsoft brand or the Apple brand, right? Most commonly, if I said, if I ask people who, everybody's got an iPhone pretty much, right? If I said, hey, tell me what, Apple stands for, right? Or tell me about their brand. They might explain their logo, right? They don't explain, they don't understand really what a brand is. So maybe we can start there. Like, can you break down what a company brand is and how that relates to you? Because I think you guys focus on personal branding as opposed to company branding, or maybe unfair that a little bit or unwind that.
Yeah, that's a really good juxtaposition to put out there. We are personal branders, right? So we represent anybody that would be the face of their business in their community. And what we show people in the 3D formula is how to define, develop, and display to effectively attract your culture, right? Microsoft has a culture of people that follow it. Apple has a culture of people that would prefer to use that Apple over an Android open source type of a system and stuff. We all have that, and that's effectively what a brand does, right? And a corporate brand does it without a face on it, and a personal brand does it with a face on it. Because most of us, let's face it, we're in our communities, right? We're in our organizations, our churches, our recreational organizations, synagogues, where we hang out and the things that we like to do, our bars and our restaurants, our normal hangout places, right? What are we surrounding ourselves with? We're surrounding ourselves with the culture of who we are. And when real estate, what happens is people everybody's got a brand, right? So you're either out there actively pursuing and attracting people that are interested in that culture and want to do business with you personally, or you're allowing them to decide whether or not you're a commodity worth, number one, your commission, the value proposition that you bring into it. And building a personal brand, what you begin to infuse in that is the attraction to more and more of that culture that's naturally going to be there whether you want it or not. And you're controlling the narrative, if that makes sense.
You're right. But okay. All right. So you're 100%. I agree with everything you said. So, right. It is, you started off your explanation with attract your culture. And I think, I think a lot of people, this is where, I think a good example of like attracting your culture, right? Like everybody's on Facebook and everybody has a bunch of Facebook friends and people have sort of a persona, right? Like, everybody has their private life and then their public life. And, a lot of people don't want to infuse their personal culture or their persona with their real estate business or business in general. And I think a lot of people, I think that's one of the reasons why people are attracted to the sea of sameness, is because I can separate me from my business. And I think, successful companies, successful people, right, they don't do that, right? They're one and the same, right? If you are, you mentioned earlier, recreation churches, right? If you're a Jewish rock climber, right? Like go all in on trying to attract Jewish rock climbers because you know all about their life and you know what kind of houses they might like or what, why do people resist defining their own personal culture or brand and then throwing that out into the world, right? In a big way.
I believe they resist it because they don't really know what it is. They have a hard time defining that, and they have a hard time connecting that bridge between professional and personal. And they're just kind of like a deer in the headlights. It's like, well, what do I put out there? What do I say? Is this too much? And I think there's just a lot of confusion there. And when we work with people, we really get them to look at, what is your story and how does it relate to why you are known for what you're known for in real estate? So maybe this will sum it up really well, Toby. A great brand has to answer these 5 questions. Number 1, what sets you apart, both personally and professionally? Number 2, who do you serve? 3, how do you serve them? 4, what qualifies you to serve them? And 5, how does it make their life better? And you will inevitably come up with some personal things about you that will weave into all the answers to those questions. And because people don't do business with a logo, they do business with a person. But back to the question you asked me, I think they just don't know how.
Right. Well, I think what I think is, number one, they don't know how. And if I tell them or you tell them, right, everything that you just said here, right, is in a lot of ways is being super authentic to you, right? What sets you apart? I think people resist. People resist. Everybody does have a unique talent, right? Like everybody has a unique story, their own story, right? Maybe you're a pole vaulter, right? And you know everything about the life of pole vaulting or gymnastics, and I think people resist going, okay, I'm the gymnastic real estate agent, right? And I want to serve gymnasts. And they resist it for a bunch of different reasons. 1, the market's too small. 2, nobody cares. Or 3, I'm done with gymnastics. So that part of me is dead, right? Like now I want to go on. I think people kind of know how to do it. I think there's just, in a lot of ways for most people, like internal resistance to being their authentic selves and doing that in a very world or forward facing way.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, Toby. Like there's safety in obscurity.
Right.
But you can't grow your company in obscurity, and or you'll have obscure results, right? And you are right. I think we're raised from birth to be humble. We were just talking about this on another podcast earlier. Most of us are raised to be humble, right? And by parents that are like, it's not about you, and you got to fit into the world, and yeah, you're uniquely individual, and God's made you unique, and however you want to look at it, but be humble about it, right? Be humble about it. And what people don't realize is, building a personal brand is not about being braggadocious. It's not about putting yourself out there in a way that says, look at me. It's about putting your story out there to say, look at how I can help you. Because our customers are only interested in what? They're only interested in themselves, right? Their needs, what they need. Are they going to see you as a commodity? Or are they going to see you as a partner and somebody that they actually relate to because you both love horses, or you both love to bake, or you have children the same age? And I think that people take it a step further and they're like, well, I don't want to, I'll sell a house to anybody. And the truth of the matter is, yes, you will. But when you're spending marketing dollars and you're complaining about your ROI, or you're looking at 15 different lead generation tools that are out there, on social media. I scrolled last night through stories on Facebook. I scrolled 35 times and ran across 9 different lead generation tools.
Oh my God.
None of them look different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So what we don't realize is that people in your local communities, they're going to do business with you because of you.
Right.
Not because you bought a lead generation tool from one of these other companies. That's not how you build the relationship. The paper contract is only as good as the people that sign it. The relationship that you're building. Well, how do we build relationships? We tell people about ourselves, and then we ask questions about them, and it starts that engagement. And that's what personal branding does. That's the magic of personal branding in communities.
And Toby, your sorry about that, Toby. Your statement about gymnastics, when you said, okay, well, I don't do gymnastics anymore, or I don't want to be known for this. There's a difference between letting that lead and define you, or just letting it be part of the story that you share. So there's delineation there. You have to figure out, okay, what's going to lead the way. We call that a brand identifier, a slogan or a tagline that would just kind of set the tone and direction for your brand. In other words, that one thing you want to be known for, the one thing you stand for. You can do that. It could be the gymnastics realtor, or it could be something entirely different. But the fact that you have a gymnastics background could still be part of your overall story. Fear of focus is the greatest fear that we have in business. People don't want to focus because they think they're going to box themselves in, and there's nothing farther from the truth. They're going to focus, not box themselves in.
Right. Right. There is a fear of focus. And I think a lot of that fear of focus stems from the fact that, right, if we use that, I use that gymnastics or pole vaulting thing, right, because that's super obscure. And I think a lot of people will go, well, I have this, pole vaulting, background. I was in the Olympics or whatever it might be. I was a high school star or whatever. I think a lot of people, when you sit down or I sit down with someone, I go, hey, let's talk about what you look like and how you're going to approach the market. I think number one, people focus on, right, they go, oh, what are the 9 lead generation tools that Michael saw last night, right? Because they think the tool is the thing that's going to make them successful, where you and I, all three of us know that it's really the messaging behind the tool, right? The tool is only good for distribution, they're getting my story out to the world. But prior to that, I have to get my story, I guess, all in a box, right? In order for the tool to do its work. And I say that to say that I think most people do not see value in their own story. They do not see value in their own uniqueness, right? Maybe they weren't a pole vaulter. Maybe they were nothing, right? And maybe they just barely scraped by through school, right? Maybe they grew up with an alcoholic dad, right? And a crazy mom, right? And they're like, I have nothing I don't want to be authentic, right? Because I'm ashamed of my background, and my background doesn't make me special or anything. And I disagree with that, right? There's value in right. So how, for those people who don't see value in their uniqueness or their own story, and they have a fear of being really authentic to the world, how do you, number one, how do you develop where do you start, right? Do you, I'll just leave it there. How do you start to work from there?
Well, when we have them come into our program, we have them fill out a positioning questionnaire, and then we try and figure out, okay, what's the direction? What's that one thing that we want to be known for? And that one thing literally could be several of their points of differentiation kind of blended into one. We as human beings have several different points of differentiation. There's lots of different things about us, not just one. So kind of figuring out the mixture of what things are unique about you, what do you do that your ideal customers are going to appreciate and that are going to attract those ideal customers, and then how are we going to kind of formulate that into this one little phrase to at least kickstart everything. Then to get them to open up, the next thing that we do is dig into their brand messaging. It's a very first thing we do once we kind of figure out a direction, because the brand messaging is the language they use to communicate what it is that sets them apart and how they're going to be beneficial to someone in business. And so digging into that, there's always, we just had this conversation earlier today, there is always this point where somebody says, my story's not interesting, I'm really just boring, or I don't know if I want to share that. But really, once we get them to see that there's a star inside of everybody, it's like magic. And every time we do a brand messaging reveal where we actually read their story to them, that's going to be what the brand is built upon, almost every time, Toby, there are tears, grown men in tears on these brand messaging reveals. And you're right, marketing is using various different vehicles to get a message out to the world, but your brand is that message and image that those marketing vehicles are carrying. And so it makes a huge difference. And I want to say one more little thing. Yeah. You mentioned like alcoholism. You mentioned, I'm actually just finishing up my dad's memoir right now, and it's called The Raising of a Rebel, 12 Turning Points from a Child of Alcoholics. He came from 2 violent alcoholic parents, and it's the story of his life. And when I asked him, when I came up with the idea to write his book, I called him one day and I said, Dad, here's what I'd like to do. And literally, there was probably 6 or 8 seconds of complete silence. Now, if you know my dad, Toby, you know that is not normal.
You never get 6.
No, not even 3. And so the next thing he said was, what did I do to deserve a book? Well, it warmed my heart. It made me cry. And it made me realize everybody's story has to be written.
I agree. And the trick is to help people get to the point where they can, I guess, reveal themselves to the world, right? And I guess maybe you guys are part psychologists, part marketers. I don't know, but when it comes to what sets you apart, right? I think most people, because those are your 5 questions that you mentioned earlier, Tanya. But I don't know what most people, the things that I think sets people apart, right? Some of it could be braggadocious that Michael was talking about, right? Some of the things it sets me apart because I got accepted into the Olympics, right? Another person might go, dude, what sets me apart is I don't want to share it, right? What sets me apart is, I was raised by a violent alcoholic, right? I don't want to share that. And how do you get people to see value in parts of their lives where, people want to, most of the time, there's a lot of pieces of people's lives that they just want to lock up behind the door. And they're like, I'm not going to tell anybody that. I'm not going to tell anybody, and I'm certainly not going to tell my prospective clients about that, right? I'm certainly not going to buy a bunch of Facebook ads. You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, sometimes you don't, Toby. Sometimes you don't go into those deep, dark recesses where they're not comfortable. That's for sure. We want people to be comfortable, and we listen very carefully to what it is they feel comfortable sharing in some of those things. Now, if we sense that, okay, well, you just need a little bit of nudging here and you're really okay with that, we have never had a time where somebody came back to me and said, hey, I wish I hadn't shared that. They've all been so grateful to have been able to share that, but they also know that we're going to help them share it in a way that's respectful to themselves and to others. This is not about showboating. It's not about airing your dirty laundry on social media. This is about defining a human being that is real and that other people are going to be attracted to for real reasons, you know, and it's just one at a time. You're taking one human being at a time, Toby. And that's all I know to say about that, because it's just every person's so different in what they will and won't do.
And they still have points we all have points of differentiation that are positive. Like
Absolutely.
You know, Al Pacino said years ago in an interview, he said, well, we're all a little bit better and a little worse than our reputation. I think that sums it up, right? Pretty good.
Right.
You know, there's things that all of us barely share with a spouse. We're not going to share it with the public. But those aren't the things that make us different to the point. In fact, those dark recess things are probably things that we have in common with everybody that's ever taken a breath, right? but we're talking about two things that motivate you. Like we got a client in Westchester, New York, and he is a baseball fiend. I mean, this dude loves baseball, and not necessarily just like, you know, MLB baseball. He's talking about like T-ball and stuff. He's been instrumental in helping to build dozens of baseball fields
and renovate the baseball
and renovating baseball fields and stuff like that, right? Now that's a point of differentiation that is attractive to people, especially if they love baseball and they see this guy's passion for baseball. How you parlay that passion into your real estate business is what makes you intriguing. It's what sets you as a differentiator from your competitors that are just saying, hey, I sold X amount of houses last year for X amount of dollars and X amount of volume. Some of that information obviously is very good, but no doubt Bobby gets people come to him because they want to talk baseball.
Sure.
And he might talk to them 45 minutes about baseball and 10 minutes about listing their property.
Right. And that,
because it's the connection.
Yeah, and he's going to list it every time, right? Like if somebody's going to spend, right? So that guy's on a mission, right? That guy has like a passion, right? And if you have a passion, whether it's for baseball or Porsches or mountain bike riding, if you have a passion, for sure lead with that, right? And if I can, that would be an easy guy to work with, I would think, for me or you, right? Like, okay, you have this passion, now we just have to package all this up, and we're gonna attract all these people who have a similar passion. But I think, you know, I'm more interested in this call to talk about like most people do not have a passion like that. And I think that hurts them when they don't have something, right? What sets you apart, right? What do you love? You know, what are you passionate about? What you know, what's a thing that you know, I could ask a bunch of questions to say what sets you apart. And then once I understand that, then I could go, okay, like who are we going to serve? How are we going to take this passion of yours because you want to interact with like-minded people? And by the way, right, if all this personal branding stuff is done right, I outline my passions, what I love to do out to the public, and the public, all, you know, bits and pieces of the public go, yeah, Toby's my guy because, you know, I love baseball too, or I love Porsches too, right? We're like this. These are the kind of people that, you know, I'm sure you guys hear this in your neck of the woods, right? Where, you know, I go, hey, Michael, how's it going? You're like, it's great. I haven't worked a day in my life, right? And it's true, right? If you can be around people you like, talk about things that you'd like, right? Your work is not going to feel like work. It's going to feel refreshing, not energy sucking. But again, how do you get people to that? What sets them apart? And then we can move on if I'm killing this topic. But I just feel like that piece.
Yeah. Okay. I've got what I think is a really good example for you.
Okay.
So a long time ago, you know, I'm this student of psychology, right? Not officially, you know, but in my own mind, right? I'm a student of psychology. So I always want to know why people are the way that they are. Okay. So I notice that we all are a product of the way we grew up. Now, we decide whether that's a bad product or a good product. We decide what came out of it, whether what came out of it was good or not, right? But I always look at people, it's like, okay, first thing I ask is, tell me how you grew up. What were your parents like? How was life where you lived? What was it like, you know, in the afternoon after you got out of school? What about your grandparents? Do you have any siblings? And have them tell me what life was like for them as a child, because those are our formative years, and that shapes who we are as human beings. So, and this is not necessarily a childhood story, but there is a lady named Cindy, and she's out of Seattle, and she came into the program, and she's a cancer survivor. Now, some people want to talk about that. Some people don't want to talk about that. She decided to talk about that because she chose the direction that she was going to let cancer take her in. She made it an empowering thing for her. She overcame that, and she saw that as very empowering. Her brand identifier is empowerment agent. And why is that? Because she became empowered herself. She took control of her own destiny. And by the same token, she takes those same attributes or characteristics now and helps empower her buyers and sellers with the most information, the best information, hand-holding, guiding through the whole process to make sure that they get what they want out of life. And so that's where she parlays her own personal experience and the good she has done with that to now turn that into a professional side of things. And so I look at a couple of things, childhood and any kind of major events or major people in their lives that have made a difference. And you would be amazed at the number of stories that come out of those two questions.
Yeah, if people are honest, I wouldn't be amazed. I mean, so many fantastic things can come out if people can be honest. How did you grow up? What affected you? Right? What do you want to do? The problem is like people have a difficult time with honesty. And I guess we can end this line of how people get to the their unique, blending their unique story with how they're going to uniquely serve somebody in the market. Tell me a story about one of your, again, right, this baseball guy's easy. The cancer person is relatively easy. Those make so much sense to me. But what about just the humdrum guy, right? Like or lady, right?
Well, yeah. Let me throw one like this and see if it fits the narrative. I love what you're trying to illuminate, right? Because we're dealing with the masses here, and so many people are, number one, like you said. They would have a problem with a certain amount of honesty, especially to themselves. And, but this isn't this isn't a brain surgery style of thought process when you're building a brand. Let me give you a small, for instance. So we've got an agent in my brokerage who's a young lady, just turned 22, came into the real estate business with no prior experience, had an aunt in Pennsylvania that sold real estate, but she barely remembers her. She grew up here in north of Atlanta in the suburbs, right? So she doesn't have any mentorship that wanted her to get into real estate, and she comes to me and says, "Will you teach me real estate?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to if I have anything to teach." And she's been with me now for 5 years, right? So came to me fresh out of high school. I mean, fresh out of high school, didn't know anything. And I told her, I said, the first thing that you're going to battle is getting people to trust you. Because you're young. How is somebody going to trust an 18-year-old or 19-year-old person, no matter how intelligent, with one of the biggest purchases they're going to do for the rest of their life? But we can overcome that with a brand. Her brand is the American Dream Agent, okay? She's a very honest person, an open person, but she's also not that person that's like sharing what she had for breakfast on her social media or something like that. Like, it's not so open that she's like totally revealed her deepest, darkest secrets. But she's married to a Marine. In fact, he just finished his service, and fantastic guy. He just got him a job as a lineman, and went to school to do lineman work in the electricity business. Her dad was in the military. Her granddad was in the military. She knows the military culture. She lived. They never did live on base. They lived outside in Jacksonville, North Carolina, for the 4 years that he served. She has helped countless people buy the American dream. So, and that's an example of how she really came to the process without any necessary deep, dark secret that motivated her, or she grew up a perfect, seemingly perfect household. Her parents are fantastic. Her brother and her get along great. Like, she doesn't have she hasn't overcome this huge adversity to make herself who she is. She's young, so she doesn't have a lot of experience. She's a third highest producing agent in my entire firm.
Amazing.
And it's all because she is very vulnerable about saying, I'm the American dream. I bought my first house when I was 21. I can show you how to buy your house. And, she's all about family. She's got her dog in all of her posts, and
very patriotic.
Very patriotic. She's got her branding elements of the American flag. She's got, she's honoring veterans. She's honoring the VA. She's all of this thing is her brand is infused into who she is, and it gives her a point to live up to, and then people literally approach her and they're like, so what does that mean, the American Dream Agent? And she's on point. Well, let me tell you.
Right.
And then business after business after business. She's literally had people go to her from her reviews, which she gets her clients to write in the fact that, oh, thanks, Sydney, so much for helping me achieve the American dream. Right. This is infusing that brand, and it's more and more attractive to people all the time.
I love it.
So that might be a good example.
That is exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for, right? Like, because a lot of people don't think they have assets. And this girl probably didn't think she had assets. And then, you look into her background and you're like, you got all kinds of assets, right? People will love this, this story, right? Military lineage, and once I think that you got that person clear about, what sets her apart, then the other questions, right? Who do you serve? Right, that's pretty easy, right? How do you serve them? That becomes pretty easy. Why are you qualified? Well, clearly I'm qualified. I just bought my house at 22, right? And how can you make their life better, right? So, all right, where do we go from here? Because that is a great maybe jumping off point. We can either dig into that a little bit on how people can maybe some of the questions they can ask themselves to determine or get a sense, right, at least the beginning of what sets them apart to then answer these 4 questions, or we can move on. What do you guys think?
Either one. I mean, we can answer it pretty quick. When building a brand like that, we use the 3D, what we call the freedom formula, right? Because it's going to give you, when you work it, it's going to give you the freedom that you're looking for. Like Sydney has as an American Dream Agent. It's about defining, developing, and displaying this all over all of your platforms, period, and infusing that everywhere that you go. And a good brand should literally answer, it should be about who you are or what you stand for,
right,
in that authenticity, right? So to give you a real quick another example of I have one of our clients is she's a real estate remedy. That's her brand. She works nearly exclusively with traveling nurses, and she has sold houses in the Atlanta marketplace to nurses, traveling nurses all over the country. And every time she has a success story about another nurse that's bought a house in another city, right, because they use the real estate remedy matches with her client's passions, right? Because she knows the genre, she knows their hours, she knows the genre of what she's talking, the colloquialisms of what she's talking about. She's got example. She can address their challenges in her blogs and on her website.
Yeah.
And it's all real estate remedy. What do nurses do? Nurses are about remedies and healing people, and she infuses every bit of that. It answers who she is or what she stands for.
Yeah,
and it uses a 3D to build that out.
I think most people. I think. Tanya was talking about this earlier. I think a lot of people, when they think about what their story is and who they could potentially serve in a unique way or authentic way, I think most people go, go back to that pole vaulting guy, right? That pole vaulting guy just go like, I'm not going to focus on pole vaulters because that's way too small of a market. And I think that this real estate remedy person. If you think about a traveling nurse demographic, what a weird demographic, right? What a weird niche to focus on, but if you own that focus, if you really know the lives and the challenges of traveling nurses, then all of a sudden, man, like your messaging, you're talking to a relatively small audience, but man, you can talk to their needs and desires so distinctly, right? That these nurses would never hear anywhere else other than this person.
Yes.
And think about the referrals, Toby. I mean, first of all, she's in an area where there are some major hospitals, including Emory University Hospital. And think about the referral opportunities. All of a sudden, it doesn't become just traveling nurses, but it's nurses, it's physicians, it's anesthesiologists, it's radiologists, people that those traveling nurses work with every day. And it's all still under that real estate remedy umbrella. So yes, she'll never fulfill all of that.
We had a person on the phone one time say, we said, look, you need to focus on aging people, right? Downside, right? The response back was, that's not, that's a.
They're going to die.
That's a dwindling genre of real estate. And I'm like, except for the people behind them, like us, that are going to grow into that.
Right.
It is a perpetual source. And in marketing, what's the most important? You know why soap is the greatest thing to sell? Because everybody needs it. And it depletes itself every time you use it, right? That's why there's 9 billion types of soap out there, because everybody needs it. And when you deal with the downsizers, guess what? There's another generation of them headed right, hauling ass your way, right?
Right.
And so if you are the person that knows every challenge and everything that they're going to need for that right sizing situation, empty nester situation, it is an endless supply of referrals and customers that you are attracting every day.
You're right. You're 100%.
Just like nurses.
Sorry, Michael. I keep talking over you. I apologize, buddy. But so you're 100% right about that, right? So the traveling nurse person, Tanya talked that once you can speak to them directly, and then all of a sudden you get referred out to the other adjacent verticals, right? Physicians, radiologists, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's always this case, right? Like the aging population group. Well, those people they're going to age, they're going to downsize, and then they are going to die, and they're going to pass that real estate over to their son Jimmy, right? And then if you've done your job right, hopefully that you just earn Jimmy and their whole family as new clients. There's always new verticals, but most people can't see that, right? Because most people, I think, intuitively understand that in this business, the average agent comes in and it's an 18-month life cycle, right? They get their license and 18 months later they wash out. And for the lucky ones that do something right in the first year or two, right, then maybe, most people are doomed to doing 8 to 12 deals a year. And that's fine, right? You can pay your bills. You're going to live, right? Maybe you can drive a Tesla. You're not rolling, but that's okay. What do you guys say when people like this real estate remedy person, and maybe you encourage her to focus on traveling nurses, right, with the idea that hey, there's these other verticals that you can tap into? You have to hear over and over again, hey, that market is too small. Hey, that market is not really a market, right? Like how do you talk people into, or convince them, or persuade them that focusing on a small niche is way better than being nothing. You know what I mean? You're not standing for anything, doing what everybody else is doing, right? Hey, I sell houses, right? That's nothing. So what do you do to persuade those people?
Well, we generally tell them if you try to do business with everybody, you'll just help yourself right out of business.
Right.
And we're just pretty bold about it. It's like you certainly didn't get to this age in your life where you didn't hear that. You've got to focus on something, stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. That's the old country song, right? So if we get them to look at, sometimes you just got to break it down and get them to look at the numbers. But most of the time, once you say you can't do business with everybody, they really do get that. Now, you can't get through to them all, Toby. That's the real truth. Mm-hmm. You can't get through to them all.
With my agents and my brokerage, when I do my launch classes for the new people that come in, I teach them that one of the very first things that you need to do is shrink your target area. Mm-hmm. Because I want to take over the state of Georgia, but before I can do that, I got to take over Atlanta. But before I can do that, I got to take over Beaufort. And before I can do that, I got to take over certain neighborhoods inside of you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We can't. Our minds tend to go directly to. We post a Facebook post, and then we expect that 900,000 likes and instant stardomhood. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, we're Gary V. We've posted, and now we're famous, right? No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It didn't work that way for him either, right? I came from a national company. We were the fourth largest real estate auction company in the world. And to sum this up, we sold out 80% of the Bear Stearns residential portfolio when we got it. Guess how much of the market share we had? Out of all of the auctions properties in 2006, 7, 8, and 9, we occupied 3% of that market.
Wow.
And they were the fourth largest in the entire world.
Wow.
So the point that I'm making is people tend to think bigger, you think about your eyes overloading your tail end, right? Your mouth writing a check that your tail end can't cash. And I think people tend to look at the real estate business that way. So I teach them, I'm like, look, you have got to, when you're known in these three major neighborhoods that might total 600 houses, and they know who you are, you'll have more business in those three neighborhoods than you can do in a lifetime. It's very hard for people to understand, but they don't realize just how vast this world is. There's 7 billion people on this earth, 7.5, and there's 340 million of them in America, right? And there's 200 million houses to sell. So there's a lot of business out there. That's why Andy Florence from CoStar and, Rich Barton from Zillow, that's why they want a piece of it. Yeah. Because there's $200 million or $200 billion with a B in commissions that are traded in real estate every year, and 140 billion of that is in residential. You're not going to run out of business,
right? And I think a good point that you said is right. The whole you want to take over Georgia, but you got to take over Atlanta, and then you got to you first got to take over this certain neighborhood or street. And in my experience, I put myself through college painting houses, and I would go on my spring break, and I would knock on door. I'd pick a neighborhood, and I'd knock on doors, and I'd get no different than I think what Tanya did selling vacuum cleaners back in the day. But and all of a sudden, right, I would get a couple estimates, and I'd get a house, and then I'd get another house, and it just every time my whole college career, I would spend all my summers literally painting on 2 or 3 streets, and I was like, I could literally go, dude, that house, I could just. Yep. And the funny thing is, like the next summer, I would stop painting in the winter, and in the next summer, I already had so much momentum. Like everybody already knew who I was because they had seen me, up and down and painting these houses. Right, the next summer it just got easier, and next summer it just got easier. Right, and then I got a corporate job and made way less than I graduated, and I made way less than I was making painting houses. But that's how it goes, and I think that's a great point, because I think too many times people want to be Gary V, and they forget that Gary V started. He was sucking on racquetball balls, on YouTube to try to do his wine library, and now he's doing social media for Taco Bell, right? But you got to start where you are.
Yep.
How do you guys let's jump ahead real quick, because hopefully people have learned that their story is unique and their story is valuable. They just have to learn how to package it up right. Can we spend a couple minutes just on developing once the next steps, right? Once I'm the freedom nurse or any of your clients, right? Once I understand what my unique ability is and who I'm going to serve. Right. What's the next step here? I have a sense of what it might be, but what is the next step? What do you help them develop, package up? And then the next thing I'd like to finish out talking about is then displaying that, right? How do we get that out into the world?
Okay. In development, we always start with brand messaging. That's the language that you're going to use to communicate what sets you apart so you're attracting the right people. And then we develop what we call the branding elements. So brand messaging is one of those. To me, that's the most important. Then we take a look at what are your brand colors and a personal brand logo, and that logo needs to have your brand identifier in it. So boom, at a glance, what that person stands for, or the one thing they want to be known for, and that should do enough to get people to crack open the book, right? Your brand's just like a book. Your brand is the story, but you can't possibly put the entire story on the front cover of the book. So you've got to have a good, compelling title. That's your brand identifier. So we take a look at a logo. We also take a look at a collection of images that will represent the visual part of your brand. One of the biggest mistakes agents make is on their website, their social media cover photos, their business card, they have all kinds of different images. They might have a yellow house on one, they might have trees on another. There's no consistency there. So we help them choose a small collection of images that'll represent that brand. And then finally, we do a photo shoot, and it's not a typical, frozen headshot. It is, we call it a BrandFace style shoot. It's all types of poses, sometimes props, depending on the brand and whether those are necessary. But we have a BrandFace stylist on staff with us, and actually he meets with them to prepare them for the photo shoot beforehand. And when he meets with them, he knows their brand identifier. He's read through their brand messaging. He knows their brand colors. So he really knows what they're trying to portray, the image that we're trying to portray with that shoot. That's another big problem that people have. They go book a photo shoot. Well, I have a photo shoot in a week. What for? What are you going to, what image are you trying to portray? How are you going to portray that?
Right.
How's it going to look different from everybody else's? And that's another big mistake. So that's what we do in the development phase, is come up with those branding elements.
Can just so when you were talking about the brand messaging, because I think the brand messaging is, in my mind, it's the foundation that you're going to lead with, and maybe I see it differently than you guys, but when you were talking, I just looked at my bookcase, and I picked up Stephen Covey's book, right? So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then the subtitle, Powerful Lessons in Personal Change. And then we were talking about Gary Vee. I picked up Gary Vee's book, right? Jab, right hook. And then the subtitle is How to Tell Your Story in a Noisy Social World. When you say brand messaging, are you talking about a tagline like powerful lessons in personal change and how to tell your story in a noisy world, or what do you mean by that?
Okay. So sometimes the answer to that is yes. Sometimes we do longer taglines like that. Most of the time we do what's called a brand identifier, which usually is no more than 3 or 4 words, like a real estate remedy, like home navigator, like lifestyle locator, some of those. And by the way, for anybody listening, those are all trademarked. So don't think about it. If you want some of those, come to us, right? But those are some of the ones, so that at a glance they see that marketable phrase and it captures the attention. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Makes you want to crack open that first page and read that first chapter of the book. So that's what we mean by brand identifier, and then we help them with an elevator pitch. Which is, it's not your typical elevator pitch. It's not 10 seconds long or 20 seconds long. It's not 3 sentences. It's 1 sentence. 1 sentence. Who do you help? How do you help them? What does it mean to them? Pretty much it, right?
Give me a sentence for BrandFace.
Okay, you got it. Okay. We help real estate agents define, develop, and display their unique point of differentiation so they can outmarket and outsell their competition.
Got it.
Okay,
I help.
That's what I help. I help exactly who do exactly what so they can achieve exactly what. That's our formula. Okay, and it's not verbatim. Sometimes we switch it up, change it up a little bit, but that's the basic formula.
And that's super important. If that's the one thing everybody takes from that they need to develop that. I help who, in what way, right? That is everybody be way farther down the road. So and then you mentioned a book, and I know a book is part of let me look at the time here. Okay. I know that once I have my brand identifier, right, I help people develop, identify, and I forget your tagline, but once you have that, then what is you're certainly not done, right? You have your colors and logo, right? What is the next step? Because that seems to me the most important thing. This is the thing that most people think when they think of branding is, I have it in a box. Now I need to go out to the world, right? Now I need to blast this out to the world. How do you?
Okay. You're talking about marketing it.
I'm talking about the pathways to getting it out there, right? So I have this real estate remedy brand. messaging, right? I know my colors, I know my logo, I know what I stand for, I know who I serve. Now what, right? Like, how do I now get my message into the right hands?
Yeah.
Well, this is where a lot of people are already, they think or they do have that knowledge already, right?
Okay.
This is the display portion of it. And this is where people tend to think, well, what do I need with the others? I can skip over these important steps and I can just go straight to displaying. But that's where you run into problems, like we were just talking about on another podcast. They like, you might be building a social media following, and you might have that a little bit, but yet that social media following doesn't really share with them how and what and why. When what you should be doing is building that culture off of those platforms, right? Because you should display everywhere that you possibly can, and there's no end of where to put that out, right? Billboards, radio, social media, all 18 million social media platforms, and the 18 million that somebody's inventing right now that we're going to hear about tomorrow, right? The new TikToks and all that kind of stuff. When you build and display your brand and you define your brand, when it comes time to displaying it, you've already got it. It doesn't matter how many platforms they come up with. You just go in, download the app, make your profile. There's all your elements and your images. But what you should be doing with that is keeping in mind that you're building your culture. You're building what we started this conversation with, which is the people that are interested in you and interested in doing business with you. And you got to get them maybe over to your website that explains more of why that's important to them, and the resources and the tools that show them, how to use that and why they need to trust you on that. So the display part is the part everybody thinks they've got figured out. But the problem with it is, like, I'll use an example in Greenville, South Carolina. There's a guy there. There's two agents that are in Greenville that were spending probably equal amounts of money on a billboards. Okay, so when I'm talking about billboards, these guys probably had at least 15 billboards each, all on the 85 corridor from the upstate down to the low country.
Oh my God. Okay.
Right, they were spending some jack.
Yeah.
One of them had one message, and it was the same message, and it was the same picture, and it didn't even have a phone number. It had a website, but it was the same message, same background, same everything. The other one had a different message on every one. He was in a different outfit on every one. He was had some of them had numbers, some of them had websites, that sort of thing. Now, I knew what I was looking for because I'm a marketer and I'm in the real estate business, and I'm looking around and I'm seeing what other people are doing, right? The guy with the one consistent message has still got billboards up. The other guy's long gone. I don't see one billboard with it. And the reason why is because he never built that brand recognition. He never built the recognition to why he was important to those clients. He just thought that the fact he was in a football outfit one time and was wearing a Yoda outfit the second time, that was enough to generate. But what it really did was confused his audience. Yeah. And they never really soaked in that 7, 11, and 21 rule, right, that we all know works in marketing. 7 times of hearing your name before they remember it, 11 times with your name to what you do before that registers what you do, and 21 times before they take action on that. Those are universal marketing laws that will never, ever, ever change. And the way that you display a defined and developed brand is the one that gets you there in that 21 times and won't get you there in 2,100 times.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that for sure. I guess, what I was thinking, and maybe I'm not right here, but I was thinking, right, once you get your brand messaging and like the real estate remedy, the nurses girl, and then the American Dream girl, and then the there was somebody else, the aging person who was focused on the aging people, what people do know, they know that I can buy ads on Facebook. They know they can buy ads on Google, right? The general things people do know. But I was just wondering if if I'm going to focus on traveling nurses, right? Like maybe, and that's my demographic. And I'm generally targeting at a higher level a medical demographic, right? Maybe I should be looking to display my messaging in journals, right? And not the usual places, right? Because the traveling nurses, they have a different lifestyle. Right? And maybe, and I guess now I may be answering my own question, because if I know the life of the traveling nurse and what's important to the traveling nurse, then I probably know what kind of things they are consuming and when, right? Whether it's for entertainment or for, for their work. Same thing with the aging people, right? Like, I just turned 51 and I'm in super health, but I get AARP stuff, right? Just because I'm like of the age, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, they're targeting.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, you nailed it, Toby. It's because you've got to follow your client. Where are they? What are they
show up where they are.
Right. How are they consuming media? Are they more likely to be on TikTok, or are they more likely to be on Facebook? Are they more likely to be reading the daily newspaper, which actually some people still do that? Or are they more likely to be listening to a Christian radio, station? Are you more likely to catch them on LinkedIn? So you've got to look at some of those things. The truth of the matter is there's probably 5 or 6 ways to reach almost anybody, and you've just got to start somewhere and commit to one.
yeah.
And make
do
it
it
work.
right.
Let me give you a live example. Our company, believe it or not, runs a $500 a month radio spot. I can't even remember how many spots we get for $500 a month, and I have not changed the message in 2 years. And I saw the report last month. 14.7% of our clients and calls came from that radio. $500 a month. Now, in other markets, $500 on a radio is not going to get you anything, right? It just so happens this is it's an area where that radio station is important to those clientele that are in that area. It's fairly rural. It's got a wide swath of people, but it has a small bank of listeners, right? But we're showing up where our clients and potential customers are, and it works. So,
Yeah.
Ask me if I'm ever not going to spend that $500. No, I'm going to spend it forever.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but that's what we do, right? So we put real estate agents on the radio and television. So this is why branding is always a big thing for me, because this, it's literally what we do. And $500, if you go to Dallas, for example, right, a 60-second spot in Dallas is like $1,000. Here in I'm in San Diego. We have a monster station, KFI, that goes from LA to the northern part of LA all the way down to the border, right? It is like $2,200 for a 60-second spot. So you should spend more money, Michael. We should talk afterwards. You spend more than $500 and change your branding, bro. Change your messaging. I can help you.
You're right.
Believe me, even those of us who do it every day, sometimes we miss something once in a while.
Hey, it's a busman's holiday, man. It's a busman's holiday. You know what I mean? I'm getting to it.
That's funny.
It's going to be done, Toby, because you're right. You're exactly right. When you see those, and I hope that answers your question.
You did.
When you know that people are there, that's where you got. I go fishing in Alaska every year, and I go with the same guy. And for years, the guy kept saying, "You got to fish with Craig. You got to fish with Craig, greatest fisherman in the history of mankind. You got to fish with Craig." Well, finally, we got a chance to go with Craig, and we caught fish till our arms were sore. And we were sitting around one night and caught a bunch of them. And Craig's like, Johnny keeps saying I'm the greatest fisherman in the world. You know what my secret is? And I said, what? He goes, when the fish are there, I fish. And when the fish are not there, I quit fishing. And in marketing, and
I hate sayings like that. I hate it.
There's a lot to do with that.
Right.
Yes.
I'm with you, man. Listen, you guys are fantastic. We've used up our hour, and I know you guys have another call. I want to ask just the last question, because I do think we've touched on getting clear on your messaging and who you are and what you can help, and I hope everybody has taken that away. And I think you just illustrated, Michael, the need for consistency with the same sort of messaging and branding. You can't mix it up, because that confuses everybody, and you'll never know what is working and what is not working if you do it like that, and you'll be out of business, just like that guy that he's not buying billboards anymore. Speaking of consistency or routines, I always ask this because it's interesting for me, and I'll throw this to both of you really quickly. Do you guys have a habit routine that you've baked into your day or your week that you think has contributed to your success today?
I do. I absolutely do. Yep. We like if you're specifically asking me what it is.
Yeah.
We're routined to look. We have a Google Analytics meeting every Tuesday. Period. So we can look at what the Google Analytics are doing. We have monthly analytics that, like I just shared with you, that showed me where our foot traffic's coming from or our call traffic's coming from. And monthly, we're looking at that. We have a 9 a.m. sales call that we don't miss on Mondays. Those are the routines that we stick to. My grandfather taught me that a good habit is just as hard to break as a bad habit.
Right.
And the consistency of that is very important because that intel tells you what is working and what is not working. So you can quit the shotgun approach and you can start rifling right at your target. And we do messaging on a quarterly basis to be sure that we have our email drip campaigns are hitting the need of the market at the time, because sometimes it's buyers, sometimes it's sellers, but it's always the same brand.
Right. And I think that's so important. I think looking at data is super duper important, because if you don't have data, you can't make any decisions. And I think this is the problem with people. They do an ad on Facebook or even the radio, and they're, well, I'll talk about Facebook, right? Because you can look at the analytics on that, or even on YouTube, but people don't look at the analytics. They just go, "Oh, that didn't work." But you don't look. You need to look and see, okay, how long did they watch that for before they bounced off, right? Yep. Like what worked in the first version that didn't work in the second version, and I think if that's how you learn, right? You have to look at data. And so many people try something. There's no consistency. They try something once, they go, "Oh, it didn't work," done. And you know what? And for the rest of their careers, they'll be like, "Yeah, I tried radio, that didn't work. Yeah, I tried Facebook advertising, that doesn't work. Yeah, I tried door knocking, that doesn't work." And I'm like, dude, okay, you need to go find a different career, pal. Go, because you're not going to make it. Anyhow, that's great, Michael. What about you, Tanya? Do you have something? And this is not necessarily for business, like maybe even something personal, a personal or business routine that has contributed to your success.
Walking. Whenever I get frustrated or I need to think something through, I go to the closet, I get my tennis shoes out, and I go for a walk, and it never, ever, ever fails me. It's just sometimes you've got to step out of your own space.
Right.
And you've got to clear your mind, and the best thing to clear the mind is exercise. And I just recommend that for everybody, and that's really what has saved my brain a lot of times. But I want to say something about your, hey, radio doesn't work. I dealt with that for like 18 years when I was in the radio world.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to tell people, oh, yes, it does. Marconi tested that a long time ago. It absolutely works. Now, are you going to buy this or not?
Right. Yeah.
Marconi proved it worked.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Or I could say, you know what, how about we run this commercial? We tell everybody how much your business sucks and please don't go there, and we'll see how that works.
You guys are good. Hey, so you guys have BrandFace. You guys help people with this. I know your website. Everybody can go check a look at it. It's brandfacerealestate.com. At least that's the one that I'm on. Is there anywhere else you'd like to send them if they want to get more information about you or ask you guys any questions?
Absolutely. They can go to discussyourbrand.com if they want to talk to some of our team about how their brand is performing for them, what challenges and needs they have, and let's see if we can give them the brand they deserve.
And that's
discussyourbrand.com.
And I just want to say I'm on your website. I think that's a free session.
It is a free session.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
and they usually last 30 to 45 minutes. So we really dig in.
It is crazy. Everybody listening should do that, right? Because why not? Why not, right? Like spend 30 minutes with a pro. If they don't get anything out of it, they go, okay, I don't get anything out of that. It's amazing that there's so many fantastic resources that are free for the taking. And you know what? If those people who don't take it, right? Like there's that old dumb saying, right? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I have no vested interest in you guys or what you do, but I do think that I what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. I've lived it. I've done this with a bunch of our clients. And I think you're on the right track. So I hope people take you up on that. And I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Toby, we appreciate you having us.
Yeah, we're honored. Thank you so much.
All right, you guys. Let's keep in touch. I'll talk to you soon.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Let's go.